what's up everybody? We're going to talk about today how to begin the process of writing a song. My name is Noah Black. I'm the owner of Creative Corner Co. And I've been writing songs for about 9 or 10 years now. And songwriting is such an incredible tool to be able to express yourself and where you are in life, as well as to help connect with other people. But it can feel like such a daunting task. You may not know where to start. And so today I want to walk you through the way that I use most of the time is going off of an instrumental first. And so if you are an instrumentalist, finding an easy chord progression is a great way to start, and just playing that chord progression back and forth. But maybe you're not an instrumentalist. You're like, hey, I don't know how to play piano. I don't know how to play guitar. That's okay. You can go on to YouTube. You can find all sorts of resources all over the internet where you can find, just typing in piano chord progressions or guitar chord progressions that just kind of play on a loop, and then you can kind of add your own melodies and words and stuff to it. But what I want to walk you through today is the process that I wrote a song called Grandparents. And this song I wrote start to finish. It was about an hour to write the whole thing. And it was just a very easy process because of how well it just kind of flowed, and I just worked with it. I remember sitting in my home studio, and I just had the day before I was on stage and was using my acoustic, and my capo had just been on capo 4. And so I literally just picked my guitar up and just started working with a chord progression. It's super easy. And so I started it off just going. Just started playing something really simple, nothing complicated. And then just started to hum. And sometimes whenever you hum, you may sound like an idiot. You may sound ridiculous. But it helps you kind of get those natural melodies out of your system that, honestly, if it flows naturally, it's probably the right thing. And so I just started to... And so that's just kind of what flowed out. It felt right. And then as I was going through it, I was like, man, it kind of sounds a little sad, but also kind of hopeful. And it's just kind of the vibe of it that I felt in that moment. And at the time, I was really dealing with a lot of like loss in my life, and kind of losing some loved ones. And so I started to think about that and kind of added that to that hum that I had going on. And so it was, I wanna go to places and have conversations like my grandparents did. I could put my mind at ease and all my naive tendencies. There's something I miss. And so just kind of reflecting on spending time with my grandparents, and now kind of losing some of them, how reminiscing on some of those things and how you kind of wish you could go back. And so you kind of build the melody first and then allow things to come in to the process. And so I found that to be super, super easy. And so then you just kind of build off of that. So now that I'm using this progression, so the chord progression I was using, I wanted to make sure going into the chorus that it was something a little bit different than that. But then once again, it's still simple. So into the chorus, still something so different. And so I did the same thing. I just started to hum. Na 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 da 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 da, which eventually became this. I wish I could rewind and go to your house whenever. And then just repeated that with different words. Maybe then I wouldn't rush life, 'cause nobody lives forever. And then you have that chorus there. And so now the verses and chorus, everything just was flowing. It was flowing very naturally. And songs don't always do that. They don't always just keep flowing. But if you notice in that chorus, the way that my brain was hearing it as I was doing it, it was, I wish I could rewind and go to your house whenever. And then there was this weird gap before I got to the next thing. And so I was like, man, how do I fill that empty gap with something? Because it feels a little too empty. And so played back through it again, tried to find a melody, and came up with this. I wish I could rewind and go to your house whenever. Whoa, oh, oh. to kind of fill in the gap in between. Maybe then I wouldn't rush life, 'cause nobody lives forever. Whoa, which ended up, it was meant to just kind of fill space, and then now it kind of like is a key part of the song. And so I call stuff like that ear candy. It's just to fill in the gaps where it just feels a little too empty. And a lot of times it just ends up working out well. And so had that verse, had that chorus. The second verse is very similar to the first. It has a couple little subtle differences with the melody, but for the most part it was the same. And so it was that first verse, chorus, second verse, next chorus, all of that was solid. And so then for a typical pop song structure, you then have a bridge or something like that. So for that, I wanted to change up the chord progression again, just so that way it wasn't the same thing as the verse and the chorus. And so it's still simple. I had this. And then I remember whenever I started to go to hum over this progression, I remember my first idea I didn't like. And so it sounded something, let's see if I can remember it. It was something like, na 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 na. And I just remember I ended up not liking it. I added some lyrics and stuff to it, but it just didn't, it felt a little too high energy coming out of the chorus that was already, the melody was a little bit up there. And so wanted to bring it down. So I came up with na 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 na, which eventually, going with the whole theme of talking about my grandparents and thinking about that, reminded of the town that I live in. It's not far away from where my grandparents were actually buried. I had the thought process in my head of every time I drive past Church Street, I'm driving past the cemetery, I'm driving past where they are. And it started to make me think of how, life is, nobody lives forever. And so how do I take the concept of them being buried at Church Street? How can I add some contrast? Because the rest of the song is saying, hey, I wish I could go back in time. And so just kind of reminiscing of conversations that I had with my grandparents. And so added it over that melody with this. You would always be there to listen and tell me it's okay. Now when I drive on Church Street, I'm driving past your grave. And so just repeating that. And so coming up with all of that. Now, I know that's can be super fast-paced, especially if you're somebody who, lyrics is not necessarily your strong suit, or you're really passionate about lyrics, but melodies and stuff is not your thing. That's why I encourage for people to start off instrumentally, start off with a chord progression first, and then you make your way into melodies next. And then you can write down lyrical concepts kind of in your phone. I have stuff all over my phone, but I don't get attached to my lyrics. I try to get attached to the melody first, because the melody is what people are listening for. The melody is where people are trying to catch the feeling of the song. But I think going the instrumental first, melody next, lyrics last, I think ends up becoming a smoother process. And so then it ends up coming out like this. I wanna go to places and have conversations like my grandparents did. I could put my mind at ease and all my night tendencies. There's something I miss. The thing I miss most was to feel you close. You were right there to let me know. It's been so hard, wanna hold you close, but now you're just a ghost. I wish I could rewind and go to your house whenever. Whoa, oh, oh. Maybe then I wouldn't rush life, 'cause nobody lives forever. Whoa, oh, oh. Skip to the bridge. You would always be there to listen and tell me it's okay. Now when I drive on Church Street, I'm driving past your grave. You would always be there to listen and tell me it's okay. Now when I drive on Church Street, I'm driving past your grave. great. Oh, yeah. I wish I could rewind and go to your house whenever. Whoa, maybe then I wouldn't rush life, 'cause nobody lives forever. Whoa, nobody lives forever. So then you have a structure, you have something to go off of, and then, if you want to go in and record that song and you want to add, all sorts of different stuff to it, you want to add a full band to it, or, whatever, you can kind of just go. So a typical pop song kind of formula, it goes for a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, and a chorus. It's kind of how that functions. And so the way to kind of look at it from a storytelling perspective is, if the chorus is going to be the main thing, what a lot of people remember, and kind of the whole purpose and the focal point of the song. And then your verses need to be kind of what builds and kind of either gives backstory onto what the chorus is about, and then the bridge can kind of go a lot of different directions, but the bridge can add a lot of like resolve and kind of operate almost as a second chorus, depending on what you're doing. And so for this song, it was all focused on the topic of, I was dealing with a lot of loss at the time. And so I wanted the focal point of the chorus to kind of be focused on losing a loved one, caring about them, missing them, kind of wishing you could go back in time. And so then the verses kind of operate as specifics that make me think about spending time with my grandparents. And then the bridge gives this secondary kind of perspective on what the chorus is communicating as well. It just kind of all comes full circle, the whole song. And so that's the way that I look at it, and what works the best for me. Start with an instrumental and then build some melodies on top of it. Find, kind of hum some melodies that make sense with the chord progression that's going on. And then, try and fit those lyrics with that melody. I think you'll be surprised at what you come up with in the process. Now, songwriting is not always easy. For that song I mentioned, it took me all of an hour to write it. And that was it. That's the only time it took. However, there have been songs where I've spent 3 hours sitting down and still didn't finish it, and then I don't pick it back up until 6 months later, and then finally finish it. It's just how it is. Songwriting can be a frustrating task at times, and so let it be fun for you. Don't let it be frustrating. What I've found to be the most helpful in the process is, if I go to sit down and I'm getting frustrated at writing whatever song I'm working on, I either stop working on it and take a complete break and then try and come back to it later, or I just don't touch it for a long time until I eventually come back to it. However, that doesn't mean that you are a bad songwriter or that there's something wrong with your brain or anything like that. So don't convince yourself of that. It may just mean that that song may need to be picked up later, or that you can take elements from that you were working on and use it for another song. Just continue to work on your craft, develop, put your reps in, and man, just put in the work. It's definitely worth it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If there's anything that you have questions on, or you want to ask more specifics, or you would like to see a more in-depth kind of dive into a certain thing that I may have talked about or not mentioned that you would have liked for me to mention, be sure to put that in the comments below. I would love to be able to help you any way that I can, and our team would love to be able to give you any sort of resources that we can to help push you along, help you take next steps. Man, I really appreciate it if you would leave a like on this video and also subscribe to the channel. It helps us to be able to put out more content, but also helps us to see that what we're doing is helping you in any way whatsoever, and also you can stay up to date with future content. Really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you soon.